Because you gotta love it. It's great here.
I love the city. It's always a bit of an adjustment because in New York...
No splashy cover story. No talk show monologue. Just a few measured comments alluding to choices she made when the lights were brightest and the room felt smallest.
No matter what, if someone's being nice to you or if they're being mean to you, they're yelling at you.
Which Tom is a senior Scientologist. He's single-handedly saving the planet. That is the truth. I'm not trying to be funny.
At 45, Katie Holmes has begun speaking about her years with Tom Cruise and about the gravity that Scientology allegedly exerted on their life together. For more than a decade, the official narrative was careful and sparse. Now she's offering context, why the whirlwind began, how it tightened, and what finally made her pull the ripcord.
That is what we're told. That is what we're told. So if you say anything about him or do something like what Katie did, which was take her daughter and save her daughter's life, she's considered an enemy.
It's not a revenge tour. It reads like closure. One parent's explanation of how a fairy tale with spotlights turned into a high-stakes exercise in boundaries. To understand how odd the pairing looked from day one, place both arcs side by side.
It's something that has helped me incredibly in my life.
Yeah.
I've been a Scientologist for over 30 years,
Yeah.
and it's something that, as you know, without it, I wouldn't be where I am.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise was a generational headliner by the early 2000s. Risky Business, Top Gun, A Few Good Men, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, and Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut had hardened his A-list into granite. Holmes, meanwhile, was a familiar face ascending the long way.
Yeah, our family's gonna chill, and we're gonna, you know, we like taking those times. I mean, that is a very special time, all these holidays.
Dawson's Creek made her a household name. Then films like Disturbing Behavior, Go, and Pieces of April showed she wasn't content to be only a teen idol. Even she joked about the imbalance. In a 2004 Teen Mag profile, she'd admitted to a schoolgirl crush on Cruise. A year later, that magazine wish became a real-world headline. The speed was startling. In spring 2005, after ending an engagement to Chris Klein, Holmes stepped into a new orbit. Within weeks, she and Cruise appeared together in Rome. Rumors surged. Some insisted it was pure PR, citing the timing with War of the Worlds and Batman Begins. Then came the moment that turned whispers into a cultural thunderclap. Cruise on Oprah's couch, all superlative, no restraint. Whether the editing amplified it or not, the effect was the same. This romance wasn't just real, it was loud. By June, he proposed at the Eiffel Tower. By October, they announced a pregnancy. In April 2006, Suri was born. From outside, it played like destiny on Fast Forward. The quiet tension, according to multiple reports, was the third presence at the center of their home, Scientology. Vanity Fair later described a deliberate search for Cruise's next partner after earlier relationships ended, allegedly managed inside church circles and introducing candidates who could tolerate the intensity that comes with his life. Once Holmes entered the picture, she didn't just date a movie star. She entered a system. She took introductory courses, spoke publicly about finding the experience exciting, and for a period appeared with a Scientology aide who fielded certain questions on her behalf. Behavior critics argued looked more like chaperoning than standard celebrity PR. Holmes pushed back on the idea of pressure, calling Cruise loving and generous. Still, the boundary lines in interviews were unusually firm. The wedding in November 2006 was cinema. Odescalchi Castle outside Rome, fireworks, Giorgio Armani, a guest list that read like a studio slate. The ceremony mixed a short Scientology service with traditional vows. David Miscavige stood best man. Tom's children with Nicole Kidman, Isabella, and Connor were present. The newlyweds danced to Songbird. Holmes shared a father-daughter dance to What a Wonderful World. The pictures glowed. Even then, murmurs persisted. Friends noticed she rarely moved unaccompanied. reporters found certain topics suddenly off limits. The family's spiritual life was presented with enthusiasm, but little room for outside interpretation. Public oddities didn't help. In a Barbara Walters special, Cruise mentioned he had purchased a sonogram machine during Holmes's pregnancy. Regulators later reiterated that non-medical use wasn't standard. Former Scientologist Leah Remini wrote of witnessing tense interactions around baby Suri during the wedding weekend, an anecdote, not proof, but one more pebble on the scale of unease. A gossip column theory started to circulate about Cruise's relationships ending when spouses reached 33. Thin speculation tied to numerology and geography that made for buzzy copy, but never rose above coincidence. The effect of the noise, though, was cumulative. A picture of a home that ran differently from most, and a woman learning what she could and could not influence inside it. By 2010, the polished couple narrative frayed. Holmes gave interviews that sounded upbeat, incredible, lucky, blessed. Yet friends, according to multiple outlets, saw distance, less spontaneity, more choreography. She increased time in New York, reconnected with non-industry friends, and, as later reporting alleged, began collecting her options. If you believe the dossier of stories that followed, she retained counsel in multiple states, used a separate phone to shield planning, and worked closely with her father, an attorney, on the fine print. Whether every tactical detail happened exactly as written or not, the outcome suggests a meticulous exit. The filing in June 2012 was clinical and fast. Holmes chose New York, a venue often seen as favorable to a parent asking for control over schooling and day-to-day life. Reports say the prenuptial agreement, drafted with her father's guidance, was exhaustive. Money was not the headline. The settlement, completed in roughly 11 days, centered on Suri, who decided schooling, healthcare, and religion, where she would live, how she would be shielded from media. Some outlets claimed a large payout. Others said there was no lump sum at all, only child-related support and expenses. What is consistent across accounts is that Holmes prioritized separation, legal, geographic, and spiritual. Cruise, through representatives and in a later deposition tied to a defamation case, rejected the idea that any child needed protection from his faith. He also acknowledged, when pressed, that both Holmes and Suri were no longer practicing Scientologists. The distinction didn't settle the question so much as reframe it. If the conflict wasn't about the man but about the structure around him, then Holmes's legal positioning made sense. The custody terms reportedly required Cruise to cover Suri's education, medical, and other costs, child support obligations tied to age and at adulthood, but tuition and related expenses were said to remain on his ledger. Financial compliance, according to sources, has not been the issue. Presence is what fans still debate. Holmes kept the oxygen off the drama. She moved quietly into an ordinary New York rhythm: school drop-offs, park walks, cabs in the rain. In reflective interviews, she has described the years after the split as overwhelming in their simplicity. No household staff army, no choreographed entrances, just a mother and a grade schooler managing bedtime and buses. One story she tells involves a late-night pickup from a friend's apartment, her daughter asleep in the taxi, and a driver offering, without being asked, to carry the child inside so she wouldn't wake. It's the kind of kindness that doesn't fit in a tabloid but recalibrates a life. Love did not vanish. It just went underground. Years later, Holmes and Jamie Foxx were widely reported to be together, though they kept it near invisible. No red carpets, no comment. Rumors said a post-divorce agreement discouraged public dating and public discussion for a set period. Those claims were never confirmed on the record, but the pair's discretion suggested someone had strong incentives for quiet. Whether by contract or by character, Holmes stayed low-key, demonstrating that her priority structure, child first, career second, private life third, wasn't for show. Cruise did what Cruise does, worked. Mission Impossible installments, a long-awaited Top Gun sequel, global press tours, stunts that seemed allergic to gravity. The spectacle was back at full wattage. What didn't return, at least in the public record, was a visible bond with his youngest child. Reports have alleged that he missed milestones. Photos of them together have been absent for years. Theories proliferate. Conflicts of schedule, conflicts of worldview, religious doctrine about those who leave, a choice to avoid attention that would distort a teenager's life. None of them can be proven from the outside. What's observable is the separation. 2 households, 2 worlds. Holmes's recent comments add context without grenades. She talks about the difference between being 26 and 45, how you learn to trust your instincts, name what you won't tolerate, and take the short-term storm over the long-term corrosion. She doesn't vilify, she clarifies. For a long time, she tried to harmonize 2 systems, her own upbringing and the belief framework at the center of her husband's life. When the tension between them felt unresolvable, she opted for decisive action executed with speed and as little bloodletting as possible. If there's a moral she's comfortable with, it's procedural. Decide what you must protect, then organize around it. The other protagonist in her story, Suri, has grown into a young adult under that shield. She's kept largely off camera, reportedly interested in fashion and creative projects, said to prefer staying close to her mother in New York. College conversations have been Holmes-led. Friends say the bond between them looks more like collaboration than management as Suri designs her own life. The legal scaffolding is still there. Tuition obligations, insurance, the unglamorous paperwork of co-parenting. But the emotional center is small. 2 people who survived a global spectacle and built something private on the other side. Which leaves the question people always circle in stories like this. Did Scientology end the marriage? It's an oversimplification that makes for sharp copy and blunt truth. Belief alone rarely breaks a home. Power plus belief often does. In this telling, the issue wasn't a creed read from a book. It was the ecosystem of handlers, expectations, and non-negotiables that became the air in their house. Holmes has learned to speak about that distinction without igniting new war. She acknowledges what she admired in Cruise and what she could not live with in the circumstances that came attached. You hear no triumph in her tone, just relief. There's a reason her remarks land now. Middle age is where narratives finally belong to their authors. Holmes has nothing to sell on this topic, no court to persuade. She has a daughter stepping into adulthood, a film career she deliberately rebuilt, and a city that let her disappear when she most needed to. By reframing the past, she's not reopening a case, she's closing a file. The romance that began at a sprint and married under fireworks ended with a signature and a taxi ride uptown. The intervening years, chaperones, headlines, legal chess, whispered clauses, are supporting detail. The center is the boundary she drew and the child she carried across it. Whether time will rewrite any of this remains unknowable. People change. Institutions do not, at least not quickly. A father may decide to bridge a gap. A daughter may choose to keep it. The only certainty is the one Holmes seized when she was 33 and very tired of being told where the edges of her life were. She left. She built quiet. She taught her child how to recognize safety and how to keep it. If the debate over causes never ends, if Scientology or pressure becomes a permanent parlor game, her answer will likely stay the same. It was about responsibility, about choosing the version of the future where a little girl could grow up with ordinary days. What do you think? Was the gravitational pull of a powerful belief system the decisive force here? Or was this always a romance destined to buckle under speed and scrutiny? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this gave you a clearer picture, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.